Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. If you've ever struggled with memorizing Arabic words and increasing your Arabic vocabulary and trying to retain those words to the best of your ability, then watch this video to the very end because I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide by which you can memorize more words of the Arabic language. But before we get into that, if this is the first time you're watching my videos, a quick introduction. My name is Sa'ad ibn Mansour and I'm a student of the Arabic language and inshallah a student of knowledge as well. Even though I'm a small student of knowledge. And my mission in life is just to help and aid the Muslims to learn the Arabic language so that they can reconnect themselves with the Quran, Sunnah, and the Deen of Allah Ta'ala altogether. The Arabic language is a key, and the moment that you can utilize this key to unlock the treasures of the Deen properly. And so, let's get into this step-by-step guide on how to memorize Arabic words, Arabic vocabulary in the most efficient manner. Let's go by step number one, inshallah, and you should be able to see my screen. Now, I like to take things with a very spiritual approach and a very practical, theoretical approach as well when it comes to these kind of things. And the reason for that is because, look, learning the Arabic language is something which allows you to understand your deen better. And so there is a connection between doing this and some spiritual things that you can also do at the very same time. So it all ties in. And if you can bring it all together, you're inshallah ta'ala going to have a lot of success in the process. But let's go by step number one, okay? And step number one is very, very important, inshallah ta'ala, and apologies for my handwriting. And that is to identify the words you're going to memorize, okay? So you're going to identify the words, okay? And I'm going to explain what that means, okay, to identify the words. What I mean by that is you need to figure out, you need to plan, and you need to prepare before you start the actual memorization. The moment that you start it, before that even happens, you must know what is it that you're going to memorize. You shouldn't be doing this process at the time of memorization. Why? Because at the time of memorization, your focus should be just to memorize, okay? But if you're too busy planning during that time what you're going to memorize, by the time you start memorizing, time has already gone by. And so preparation and planning is very important. And so you must know what is it that you need to memorize prior to the session that you have when you sit down and you actually try to memorize words. And you also kind of have to organize the words that you're memorizing. You see, in the Arabic language, because we have different types of words, okay, we have words which are known as ism, we have fi'l, okay, and we also have harf. Okay, and I'm just writing them in English for now, just to make it easier. Ism, fi'l, and harf. And, each of these words have very separate usages. So, for example, ism is basically like a noun. And then the fi'l is basically like a verb. And harf is, we usually say, just a particle, okay? But to make it a bit more simpler, right? Nouns and verbs are very different types of words. And so, I find that when you memorize and you plan to memorize, you should couple words together based upon their categories. And so if you're going to have a session when you're going to sit down and memorize, start off by maybe doing the isms first, because those are just nouns, names of people and places and things like that. And then when you want to memorize the verbs, have a separate session for that, because the verbs are very particular in their patterns as well. And it just allows you to kind of separate between the two so you don't kind of get confused, because the ism has a particular way of memorizing those words and the fi'l has a very particular way of memorizing those words. And we're going to talk about that inshallah ta'ala as we go further. But I think it's very important that you organize the vocabulary and you prepare them in advance. And generally speaking, if you are part of an Arabic program or you're studying a particular Arabic curriculum, you will find that there is a lot of vocabulary that's already provided for you. And that's one of the things that we do at the Arabic Code Academy for our students. We make sure that every single week they have a list of vocabulary that's presented and ready for them to memorize. So there's no confusion about, hey, what do I memorize? And so you should already have that with courses that you already probably are doing. If you don't, that's a huge problem, because it is upon the teacher to make sure that the students, they advance and progress further. And if the teacher is not providing you with vocabulary, then perhaps you might want to either ask the teacher, and if the teacher doesn't have it, then you might want to think twice about the program or the course that you're actually doing. But it's important that these words are provided for you, and then you take that list, you now organize. Perhaps you might have 100 words and you say, you know what, I can't do 100 words in one day. Let me just break it up, and I say I'll do 15 words a day, and I'll just break it up like that, and I'll do the isms on this day, and then the fi'l on the next day, and then more isms on the next day, and then more fi'l on the next on the day after that, and then do the memorizations in accordance to that schedule. But planning and identifying the words and knowing what you're going to memorize is very, very, very important. So make sure that whatever the case is, you have prepared that in advance, so that when you do the memorization and you come to the point that the time you set for yourself for memorization, you don't have to worry about and go through that stress of, okay, what do I start with first? Am I starting with this word? Should I do those? But what about these words about family? What about these words about food? Oh, I'm so confused. I don't know. No, you don't have to do that, because you've already prepared, you've already organized, and you set yourself a schedule for what you're going to memorize. So that's step number one. Identify, plan, figure out what is it that you're going to memorize, and categorize those words to make it easier for you, and get those words off your teachers if they haven't given it to you. Like I said, at the Arabic Code Academy, we have all those lists provided for you. We want to make the process as easy as possible for our students so they can memorize without any sort of difficulties. Step number two, okay, and this is my favorite, okay? My favorite step, okay, because a lot of people don't know how important this is, which is when you have prepared everything and you're coming to the day that you set for yourself to memorize. Let's just say you're going to memorize every Mondays, and you set yourself a time, 10 a.m. Before you start the memorization at 10 a.m., I need you to keep a gap for yourself 15 minutes prior to that, okay, to do a very particular action, and that is what is called the recitation of the Quran, okay? You're going to what? You're going to recite the Quran. Now, you might be asking yourself, hey, why am I reciting the Quran if I'm going to memorize words for my Arabic curriculum? Well, let me mention to you a couple of things. Number one, my beloved brothers and sisters, the Quran is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Quran is something which is mubarak. It is blessed. It has barakah inside of it. What does it mean when we say barakah? Okay, let's write the word barakah here for you. Okay, barakah. Okay, that's in English, and then we write here barakah. Barakah. What does it mean when we say barakah? Barakah basically means when you have something, you have something, okay, but you have a lot of it. Okay, so that which you have might be small, but there is a lot of goodness inside of it. To give you guys a little example, okay, let's just say you have a plate of food which probably just usually is meant for one person, and you've got 3 people that are sharing that food together. And the 3 people, when they eat that food, they feel content at the end of eating it, even though it would probably fill up just one person if that person was eating alone. We say that food, that it had barakah inside of it. It was a small amount, ولكن فيه كثرة الخير. ولكن inside of it was a lot of goodness, enough that it was able to fill 3 people. And so, for example, when we talk about time having barakah inside of it, does your time have barakah? We say, for example, if a person was working for an hour, trying to memorize for 1 hour, and in that 1 hour, he or she was able to memorize the amount it would probably take a person that spent 6 hours, we would say, oh, in your time, there was barakah, because it was a small bracket, a small window of time, but there was so much kathratul khair inside of it that you were able to, by the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do more with less. Do more with less. And so that's what barakah is. And when you want to memorize vocabulary of the Arabic language in order to learn the language so you can understand your deen, you want as much barakah in that process. You want as much aid and musa'ada and awn from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want as much of that as possible. And so the recitation of the Quran is going to bring barakah for you. What's the dalil, the evidence from the Quran to show us that the Quran is mubarak? Many places. For example, in Surah Al-An'am, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَهَذَا كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مُبَارَكٌ. Allah said, this book we have sent it down, okay? It is mubarakun, it is blessed, it has barakah inside of it. فَاتَّبِعُوهُ, follow it, وَاتَّقُوا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ, and fear and have taqwa with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that you may have mercy on you, so that Allah can have mercy upon you. And so Allah is telling us that this book, this Quran, in it is barakah. Kathratul khair. There is kathratul khair inside it. There's so much goodness that is inside this book. So the book itself is mubarak. Okay, it has khair inside of it, right? And then Allah said, have taqwa, لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. Okay, and other places Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَهَذَا ذِكْرٌ مُبَارَكٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ أَفَأَنْتُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this kitab, this dhikr, this reminder, it is mubarak, it is blessed. Okay, it is blessed, right? And we have sent it down. And then Allah says, أَفَأَنْتُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. Are you going to reject it? Are you going to be people that reject it? Another example in Surah Al-Anbiya, another example in Surah Al-Sad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ إِلَيْكَ مُبَارَكٌ لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ وَلِيَتَذَكَّرَ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said again that this book we have sent it down and it is mubarak, it is blessed. So overall the Quran again and again mentions within it, Allah is telling us that the Quran is blessed. It is it is something which has barakah. It's the speech of Allah Ta'ala. Of course you can expect that. But now, not only is the Quran itself mubarak and the things inside of it, there's so much khair, but the athar, the effect of the Quran in a person is that it brings about barakah for you as well. It brings about barakah in your life. What's the delil for that? Sahih Muslim. In Sahih Muslim, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he said to read the Quran because it will come on Yawm al-Qiyamah, it will come on Yawm al-Qiyamah as a intercessor for you, okay? And then the Prophet ﷺ said, Iqra'u al-Zahrawain. Then he said, read al-Zahrawain. What are al-Zahrawain? Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah Al Imran. And then again in the same hadith, the third time, the Prophet then singled out Surah Al-Baqarah and he said, Iqra'u Surah Al-Baqarah. So first the Prophet said, read the Quran. Then the Prophet said, read al-Zahrawain. And then the Prophet again repeated, but this time he specified Surah Al-Baqarah. By the way, that shows when he said the Quran, Baqarah was mentioned in that. Then the Prophet said al-Zahrawain and Baqarah is mentioned in that. And then the Prophet again said Surah Al-Baqarah specifically, 3 times Surah Al-Baqarah was mentioned, which goes to show that Surah Al-Baqarah is very, very important. It's a great great importance connected to Surah, which is another topic in and of itself. But then the Prophet said, read Surah Al-Baqarah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Why? Because reading it is going to bring about barakah in your life. It's going to bring about barakah in your life. And if that is Surah Al-Baqarah, what about the rest of the Quran? What about the rest of the Quran? So reading the Quran at the time of when you need to seek knowledge, memorize words, memorize matul, whatever you want to do, just mujarrad for your day, just the mere recitation daily for your life, even if you're not seeking knowledge, just you want to have barakah in your life, you read the Quran, the barakah will come to you. The barakah will come to you. And this, my beloved brothers and sisters, I've seen the impacts of this in my own life, but I just want to show to you another example, which is the Amal al-Salaf. An example of the Salaf, that the Salaf, they used to do this. They used to do what? They used to do the recitation of the Quran before they would seek knowledge, right? Why? Example here is of Al-Imam Ibrahim al-Maqdisi, okay? وسيح بنفسها أوصى بها الإمام إبراهيم المقدسي تلميذ عباس بن عبد الدايم. So Al-Imam Ibrahim al-Maqdisi, he told one of his students, he said, أكثر من قراءة القرآن. Okay? And he said, read the Quran a lot, okay, and don't leave it off. Why? فإنه تيسر لك. He said, because it will make easy for you that which you are seeking. Okay, meaning that which you are seeking in terms of seeking knowledge. You will see the benefits of that. You will see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easier for you, put barakah in your time, in what you're doing. And then the student, Abbas, the student of Al-Imam Ibrahim al-Maqdisi, he said, when I read that, he said, when I did that, he said, فَرَأَيْتُ ذَلِكَ. He said, I saw that, and I experienced it, right? And he said, whenever I would find myself, قَرَأْتُ كَثِيرًا, he said, whenever I would read the Quran a lot, it would be easy for me when it comes to, hearing hadith and memorizing hadith and writing down hadith. And when I would not read it, when I would not do the qira'ah of the Quran, وَإِذَا لَمْ أَقْرَأ لَمْ يَتَيَسَّرْ, it would not be easy for me. And so Amal al-Salaf was the actions of the Salaf, that when they would also seek knowledge, and there are many more examples, by the way, I just gave one for now, that reading the Quran is going to bring barakah in your life. And if you want to memorize, just keep a 5-10 minute bracket just before you start your hifz of the Arabic words and say, I'm going to memorize. I'm just going to read some Quran. Okay? Just read a page and be disciplined upon it. Do it consistently. Of course, if you are a person that just reads the Quran generally on a regular basis every single day and you have that with, then inshallah ta'ala that it will also benefit you as well. But I would even say that if you can, just before you do that hifz, before you come to that memorization, qira'atul Quran. Read the Quran, take the barakah from the Quran, and inshallah ta'ala it will aid you a lot. And then step number 3, inshallah ta'ala, which is very, very important, and it's something which everyone, Allah understand, we just don't do it. I just don't know why we don't do it as often as we should. And that is, what? It is making, sorry for my handwriting, dua. Okay, making dua. Supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, there's a couple of things here. Look, number one, we have to remember the thing that you're seeking, the thing that you want, the ability for words to be inside of your qalb so that you can understand them and then utilize them to understand Quran Sunnah, it is tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the one that has the ability to make it easy for you, does it not make sense that you beg him, that you ask him, you say, Ya Rabbi, aid me, make it easy for me so that I can understand these words and memorize them so I can be able to understand Quran and Sunnah? Of course it does. You ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. And so I don't understand why we don't do this. Countless ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ that, if you ask Allah, Allah will respond to you. Okay, well, man lam yas'al Allah yaghdab alayh. Anybody that doesn't ask Allah, Allah becomes angry with that person, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran, Udu'uni astajib lakum. Call on to me, make dua to me, I will respond to you. You want a response from Allah, all you have to do is call him. All you have to do is make dua and supplicate to him. And what I would say is that when you make dua to Allah Ta'ala, it's important to utilize the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And Allah told us in the Quran, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءِ الْحُسْنَى. Yani Allah has beautiful names, فَدُعُوهُ بِهَا. And so call him by those names. And so it's important that when you do utilize the names of Allah, you should use them in accordance to that which you want in terms of your dua. So for example, if I'm seeking knowledge and I want ilm, and I want the ability to memorize or whatever it may be, then I should call upon Allah based upon those names. So for example, one of his names is Al-Alim, okay? The one who's all knowledgeable. So when I ask him, I say, Ya Allah, Anta al-Alim, oh Allah, you are all knowledgeable. Give me knowledge. Increase me in beneficial knowledge. Say, oh Allah, Anta al-Hafiz. Allah, you are al-Hafiz, you are the protector. Aid me to protect and safeguard and memorize and do hifz of these words. Utilize the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and also use the ad'iyah, the du'as of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. For example, when he used to say, Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'an wa rizqan tayyiban wa amalan mutaqabbala. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam used to make this du'a and say, Ya Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge and a rizq which is pure, sustenance which is pure, and actions which are accepted. And also what? The ayah in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا, or my Rabb, increase me in knowledge. So utilize this. Dua, how long does it take? Doesn't take long, right? Make dua, do the qira'ah of the Quran, prepare. Sorry, what you're going to do first. Recite the Quran before your hifz, then supplicate to Allah. I promise you, bil ikhlas, you have sincerity in what you're doing, Allah Ta'ala will make this journey and this process easy for you. I promise you, it will become easy for you. So, step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. Now we're going to go into the actual practical things that you're going to do with the words that you're going to memorize, okay? So let's get into step number 3, inshallah ta'ala. Step number 4. Okay. Step number 4 is writing out. You have to write out the words, okay? All right? You have to write out words. Now, there's a couple of ways of doing this. Okay. Now, I said to you, when you memorize an ism, there's one way to do that in terms of its words, and then when there's a fi'l, then there's another way. And so, let's look at the ism way, and then we look at the fi'l way to show you there's a bit of difference. But if you can bring all of this process together, you'll find it very beneficial. Let's just say you need to memorize an ism, okay, and let's say you need to memorize, for example, the word talib. Okay, talib. So we have here, for example, the word talib. Let's put it here. We have the word talib. Talib. Talib, what does it mean? It means a student. Okay, it means what? It means a student, right? Sorry, that's really bad. Sorry, my handwriting is really bad. Student. Now, when you come to asma, to isms, you find that with isms, you have singular words and you have plural words. And for every singular, there's a plural. And so I always say that, look, if you're going to memorize the singular word, you might as well memorize the plural at the very same time. Okay? Because in English, it's a bit more easier to do between singulars and plurals. Because you have a singular, like the word chair, and you just have to add an S and it becomes chairs. You have the word table, you add an S, tables. You have the word ball, then you get balls. You have the word, computer, then computers. You just add an S and you can make the plural. But with the Arabic language, it's a bit more nuanced with that because you have a category known as Jam'u Taksir, and it kind of just changes the formation of the word. And so rather than trying to learn those patterns later on in order to become, to somewhat guess what the plural might be, it makes sense that from the beginning, you take the singular and take the plural at the very same time. And so if I'm going to memorize the word talib, I would also seek to figure out what is the plural for this word as well, which is the word tullab, okay? The word tullab. Okay, tullab. Which means what? It means students. And so what would I do? I would say I have student and I have students, okay? Now, there are certain words in the Arabic language, in which you can find pairs between them. Let me give an example of what I mean by this, right? Sorry, take a step back. If I take a word which is basically like a name or a title or something, what I would do is I would take the masculine and I would also try to take the feminine as well, right? Now, generally speaking, the feminine is quite easy. If the word talib is student, then you add a ta' marbuta and it becomes talibatun, okay? And that's a female student. But if you need to do that, I would put it down just for the sake of just having everything there, okay? And so I would just put, okay, let's put the word here, taliba. Okay, so we'll put student, but this one is female and this one is male. Okay, and this plural over here, students, tullab, can refer to male or females. That's it can be any one of those, not a problem. It can be a mixture of them as well. So you have this now. Okay, you've written it down. This is with the ism. Now with the fi'l, it's a little bit different. Okay, so I'm going to try to bring this down here for you and try to do the fi'l. Let's take the word, for example. Okay. Let's take the word kataba. Okay, take the word kataba. Now, the word kataba is the past tense. So remember, with verbs, you have past, present, and future tense. So you need to get all three. Okay, when you find the past tense, try to get all three of them, the past, present, and future, so you can get it all together in one pattern, right? So you get the word kataba, which means he wrote. Then I would get the word yaktubu. Yaktubu. So we have he wrote, he is writing, or he writes, and then we have the future tense or the command, which is uktub. Okay, which means write, but it's a command. It's when you command someone. Okay, so fi'l madi, al-mudari, wal-amr. Okay, but then you add on a few more here. Okay, you also take the ismu fa'il and you take the ismu maf'ul. Okay, ismu fa'il and ismu maf'ul, which is for the word kataba, which is what? You have the word katib, and then you have maktub. So katib means writer, and this means I'll just quickly explain this to you. So I said that we have something called ismu fa'il and ismu maf'ul. And by the way, if you don't know what the terminologies are, inshallah ta'ala is one of the things that we really focus on these technical terms, and really getting used to understanding these different categories of words at the Arabic Code Academy. So if you join the academy, all of this will become easier for you, and you'll be able to understand and know how to figure out these different types of words, from the fi'l madi wal mudari wal amr, ismu fa'il, ismu maf'ul, the masdar, all of that, inshallah ta'ala. But just for those of you that might know, just to give an example, so kataba means he wrote, yaktubu, he's writing, uktub means write, is the future, come on. And then you have the ism fa'il, and the ism fa'il just basically means the one who is doing the action of writing, okay? And so, for example, that would be the writer, okay? So the one who does writing is referred to as the writer, katib. And so that's what the word katib is. And then the thing which is written, so somebody writes something, right? The thing that you've written that's been documented, right? It is maktub. It's called that which is maktub. It's the ismu maf'ul, and it means that which is written. And so these are the things, okay? And by the way, we can add the masdar, okay? Because the word kitab is the masdar, by the way, right? Kitab, which means book, okay? And this is basically the masdar. But you basically take these six, right? So when you're doing the verbs, you take the past, present, future, ismu fa'il, ismu maf'ul, and the masdar. And now you've got, all of these derivatives from one word. But all of these are derived from the three root letters of kaf, ta, and ba. Okay, and so that's why it's very important that you take them all in one go rather than trying to learn them later on, because it's easy. If you know how to do the sarf patterns, you can very easily pick up these very simple words, and now you write them down. Now, we haven't gone into the memorization process right now. We haven't done the memorization. All I've showed to you is that you need to write out these words, okay? So whether you write them in a document, in a piece of paper, whether you write them on a flashcard, but you write them out, okay? So we have the word talib, okay, and tullab for the ism, okay? And then you have the word taliba. Now, I was going to mention this point earlier, which is there are certain words which are isms in the Arabic language which have opposites, like hot and cold, right? And so if you were, for example, let's just say, if you wanted to learn the difference between big and small. And so you have the word kabir, which means big, right? If I would learn the word kabir, I would also learn the word saghir, which means small, because it makes sense, okay? They have commonalities because they're opposites. And so at the time of memorization, it just makes it easier that you just pair them up together, right? So if there's a word that you're memorizing and it has an opposite, right? Like tall and short, big and small, beautiful, ugly, you can take these words, right? Broken, intact, you take these opposite words and you memorize them at the same time because they are pairs, and so there is associations you can make in your brain based upon that. Obviously here with talib, there's no there's no opposite here, so we just take singular and plural, and then if we can add the feminine version as well, we take that as well. So talib, tullab, and taliba. Okay, in most cases you don't need to really write down the feminine version of the singular because it's really, majority of the time it's just a case of adding a ta'al marbuta. But if you want to, go ahead, it makes it easier. But now all you've done, okay, all you've done so far is we've just written out these words. How do you memorize? Okay, what do you do? Very simple. The best way for you to have these words planted in your brain is by utilizing these words, and that's step number 5. Okay, step number 5, which is what you're going to do is we're going to use the words. Okay, and the way I like to use these words, it's very simple. It's not complicated, which is you make a simple sentence, okay, using these words. So for example, if I'm dealing with an ism, okay, I would use a simple formation of words, either be a mubtada and a khabar, or a sifa and a mawsuf, but just a pair of 2 words. So for example, let's just say I was learning the word talib, okay? And so what I would do, I'd have the word talib here. And talib means what? It means a student. So I would say talibun jamilun. Okay? Talibun jamilun. Okay? Talibun jamilun. And of course, this would work on the basis that, you know, I have one or two extra words to play with, and usually you would learn extra words so you'd be able to, you know, within your Arabic lessons, be taught how to make such a simple sentence. Talibun Jamilun. What does Talibun Jamilun mean? It just means a beautiful student. Okay, this is a beautiful, handsome student. Okay, because of the fact that I'm using my brain to create a sentence with this particular word, right? It shows that I am able to know how to implement it and use it properly. And so the first step is that you write it out. You write a sentence. So now not only do I have the word written, but now I also have a sentence written for the word. And now what you do is you have to speak it now. You have to speak it, because there's one thing which is using your ability to write and produce, but the ability to also speak and produce the language is also very important as part of your speaking process. And so the more fluent you have it on your tongue, the easier it will become for you. And so then what I would do, you know, you can go to a mirror, you can turn your camera on and look at yourself, and I would just look at myself and I say, Talibun Jamilun, Talibun Jamilun, Talibun Jamilun, Talib Jamil, Talibun Jamilun. And I would just repeat that to the point where I know what I'm saying. Right? I know what I'm saying. I'm saying Talibun Jamilun, a beautiful student. And that's you without you realizing, you don't realize, but with all these little interactions you've had with the word Talib, by, you know, writing the word first down, writing its translation, making it into a sentence, reading the sentence out, and now you're reading it out loud and you say it a couple of times, you've repeated already multiple times using different skill sets, through the ability of seeing, through the ability of hearing, through the ability of speaking, through the ability of writing. You've now interacted with all of your skill sets that are needed for a language. And so now you've become more familiar with this word. You've now taken this word, now you go to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. So you do that for all of the isms, and then you come to the fi'l. Now with the fi'l, because it's a verb, the most easiest way to do this is that you get a verb and you get a subject with it as well. Okay? You get a subject and with the verb, and certain verbs, they need objects as well. So for example, the word kataba, okay, is a word that would need an object. So for example, of course, remember when I say you'll be able to create the sentences, because when you study verbs and you do that within the curriculum that you're doing, you're already able to start picking up on how to make the sentences. So if we use the word kataba, right, I would say something like, you know, I would say kataba Zaydun. Okay, so Zayd is the one that's doing the action of writing. So kataba Zaydun means Zayd wrote. What do you write? Kataba Zaydun kitaban. Okay, kitab. So bad, sorry. Kitaban. So what does that mean? It means Zayd wrote a book. So we have the verb here. We have the subject here. Then we have the object here. Okay, and obviously, by the way, again, like I'm using these terminologies: verb, subject, object. You know, fi'l, fa'il, maf'ul. Because if you're able to deal with verbs with whatever curriculum you're doing, you already know what this is. You know how to do this. If you don't know, then inshallah you'll learn it as part of the process. And like I said, Arabic Code Academy, we teach it. We'll teach you all of this, so you're equipped to know exactly what you're doing. Kataba Zaydun kitaban. Zayd wrote a book. Now I would write out the sentence. I would then do what? I would then also write the English for it as well, and now I have to read it out. Okay, so I will go to a mirror, go to my camera, you know, put it on the selfie mode, and I'll look at myself and I'll say, Kataba Zaydun kitaban. Kataba Zaydun kitaban. Kataba Zaydun kitaban. And I would repeat it a couple of times. You don't realize you've now already started to associate this word within your brain, and now it's going to be easier for you to retain. You do this for every single word that you are going to memorize. Okay, I promise you, you don't realize, but this is really solidifying this knowledge. Now, once you've done this, once you have done this process of writing out these sentences and etc., what you need to do is you need to document it. Okay, and this is very important, right? It's step number 6, which is documenting that which you are memorizing in a particular place. Now, people like to write their things out differently. Some people like to write in notepads. Some people like to write on the computer. Someone like me, I have really bad handwriting, so I avoid writing out with my hand. But I have realized that there was a better association I put in my head when I write things out rather than just typing up on a computer. So it's entirely up to you. I would encourage, if your handwriting's bad, practice. It would help you, so I would do it regardless. But you have to document this. Now, where you document it is all entirely up to you. But there is a way to do this, which is you have to document every single word that you're memorizing. You write the Arabic, and then you write the sentence next to it as well. And then, if you've got enough space on a piece of paper, you would also write the English besides it, or you can write it underneath. But now you're going to start creating for yourself your own personal dictionary. This is your own personal dictionary. Imagine you do this every single day for every single lesson, for every single word that you do. By the end of it, you're going to have a large document by which you're going to find words, you're going to find their meanings, you're going to find how to use them in a sentence properly, you're going to find the singulars and the plurals, you're going to find the verbs past, present, future, the ism fa'il, the ism maf'ul, the masdar. Everything is going to be placed there for you. And you're literally creating for yourself your own personal dictionary. And because of the fact that you are creating your own sentences, it has your own personal touch to it. This is going to be key for your revision. Because remember, one thing is attempting the memorization. Now you need to retain that knowledge. Okay, you need to retain that knowledge. But documentation of these words is extremely important. So once you've documented them, you now have the chance of basically revisiting and reading these words, periodically as often as you possibly can. Okay, which is you find maybe once a week where you would just look at your words and you go through the list. Okay, so you say, all right, kitab. That's okay. Kitab, kutub, there's a sentence. Kataba, yaktubu, uktub, katib, maktub, kitaban. All right, good, mashallah. You basically do that. And you review your words. And every week that goes by, you're increasing words, you're reading more and more words. This constant repetition of just your list of vocabulary, after having utilized them, right, is going to make them even more, solidified inside of your brain. This ends with another step, okay? Another step, which inshallah ta'ala will conclude here, and then I want to mention another point, which is shukr, okay? And I talk about shukr often as I possibly can, which is just showing gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my brothers and sisters. Why? Allah just allowed you to memorize something. Allah gave you the tawfiq to do something. Allah gave it to you. The giving of Allah is a ni'mah. When Allah gives to you, it's a ni'mah, even if it's as small as the memorization of a word. If you respond to the ni'mah that Allah gave to you, but shukr, there are two things that are happening. Shukr is showing gratitude to Allah, by the way. There are two things that's happening. Number one, the thing that Allah gave to you is going to remain. That word is not going to leave you. It's going to stay with you, inshallah ta'ala, because you were grateful to Him. And number two, Allah is going to increase you, right? لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. Allah said, if you are grateful to me, I'm going to increase you. Scholars, they say this, that shukr allows two things to happen. The thing that Allah gave to you, it will remain, and Allah will increase you even more. Allah will give you more upon what you already have. And so for that reason, you have to show shukr to Allah ta'ala. Remember, shukr is not just saying, Ya Allah, thank you. It's also doing amal, doing actions of good. So Allah gave you the ability to do something. He gave you the ability to memorize certain words. Go and give sadaqah. Okay? Go and give sadaqah. Go pray tahajjud. Go pray qiyam al-layl. Do actions of good and respond as shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think anybody that follows this process of planning your words, reading the Quran before your memorization session, making dua, writing out the list of words, making them into sentences, okay, then documenting them in a particular sheet or document or folder or book, whatever it may be, right, and reviewing them periodically, and then being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for every single time you increase the knowledge of the Arabic language. I promise you, that is the way to memorize, and that's how you're going to retain the knowledge that you have. Of course, now there are other things that a person can do for retention. I've only spoken about how to memorize actively, but retaining that knowledge is different. Of course, now that you've memorized these words, the more you utilize them, the more it's going to stick with you as well. So if you are constantly reading books, if you are constantly speaking, if you are constantly writing, then you're utilizing the words as often as possible, and that's going to be your opportunity of retention, and you will get a chance to retain this particular knowledge. Inshallah ta'ala, I hope you guys found this beneficial in regards to understanding how a person can memorize words. Of course, there are multiple other techniques out there, and the specific process of writing out the words and then making sentences and then repeating them out loud, you might want to slightly change and alter that because you find a different pathway works for you. But generally speaking, this is kind of the way that everybody would mostly do it. You might prefer and say, you know what, I like to write on a whiteboard. And by the way, I personally do this. When I memorize things, I don't write on piece of paper. What I actually do is I have a very long, big whiteboard, and I'll stick it in front of my face. I will write the word on there. I will write the sentence or whatever it may be, but it has to be on my whiteboard. And I will sit on the floor and I will look at it and I will repeat. And I will repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And then I will walk around the room where I'm glancing constantly at what it is that I'm trying to memorize to have that constant, interaction with those words so that it really sticks inside of me. And after that, then I rub it off, and then I would obviously test myself, and I'll try to create sentences again, and a whole process like that. So you can slightly change it up, but I think this technique works. It's worked for me, it's worked for many people. The spiritual side is very important. The qira'ah of the Quran, the dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the shukr to Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. These things are key. Don't leave them off. Don't think to yourself that it's just Arabic language, just a language. Why do I need to do that? No, you do. You need this in every aspect of your life. Whatever it may be, even if it's not related to your ibadah, if it's not related to getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you want khair in your life, you want barakah in your life. You should be reading the Quran. You want help in, sports that you're doing, a dua to Allah tabarak ta'ala. You win in that sport, shukr to Allah tabarak ta'ala. These things have to be there regardless. Inshallah, may Allah bless you all. Barakallah feek. If you've got any other suggestions for any other things that might be beneficial, you can put them in the comment section below, inshallah ta'ala. If you want to study Arabic and you don't know where to go, check out the Arabic Code Academy, inshallah ta'ala, by clicking the link in the description. All we do is focus on one particular thing. You to master Arabic so you can access the Quran, the Sunnah, and the Deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what I want. That's my mission, that's my aim, that's my goal. I want you to be a person that can access the Deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you can pass that down to your children as well. We aim for every person that learns, that's a new household that's going to be raised upon the tarbiyah of the Arabic language, and also the tarbiyah of the Deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah bless you all. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakum Allahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.